Okay, today we're gonna make our German Zopf, or we call it in our family breakfast bread. We call it breakfast bread just because we make it very often for breakfast and it's delicious for that. So just follow along with the recipe. As I make it, you can make it. It's same speed, so it works perfectly fine. So we're gonna start first with the butter. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put butter 90 grams into our bowl here. So just gonna see how that works out. So we got 75, need a little bit more. That was a little bit too much. $92. $90. Okay. So now we have the 90 grams of butter and we adding the milk to it. Milk we need 200 milliliter or 200 grams, whatever works. We're putting that in there slowly. So now we got 200 grams of milk. So what we're doing now is we're heating this up on the stove. What's very critical here is that we're basically heating it up slowly, because we don't want to have a higher temperature than basically 95 or 100 Fahrenheit, or in Celsius it's 35 to 38. So all what we're doing is basically melting the butter. I do it a little bit on a low heat, and all I do is I basically move the butter around in the pan so that it melts a little bit faster. So it will take a little bit time, obviously, to melt this and to heat it up. But yeah, we have time to do so. So after the butter is melted, we basically put in 2 eggs. Okay. So we're just gonna crack an egg open, put that in there, and then we're gonna do the same with the second egg. So now what you can do after you got that in there, you can basically just either use your finger to see what the temperature is, or you can use a thermometer. So in my case, I will just use a thermometer to check if, as you can see now, it basically just mixed in, which is good. Now I'm just checking the temperature quickly here, what it actually is, because again, we want to be at 95 to 100 Fahrenheit. So right now I'm at 105. So I'm going to pour this now into a glass bowl. And the only reason I'm pouring this in a glass bowl is so that you guys can actually see it better. You can see it. So I'm going to just check the temperature one more time here, what it is. Okay. Unfortunately, right now the temperature is slightly too high. So it's 106. We're going to wait a little bit to let the temperature go down, because what is super critical with this recipe is the temperature for the yeast, because the temperature for the yeast, it cannot be above 104, because that would kill the yeast, right? So that's not good, and that is very critical to keep it. And we have to treat the yeast like it is alive. It's like you're putting your baby in the bath. You want to make sure that it's not too warm. And it's the same here with the yeast. You want to make sure that it's not too warm, because otherwise you hurt it, right? And in this case, right now the temperature came down to 102, so that's perfect. It's now cold enough because it's not in the temperature anymore where it can hurt the yeast. So I'm just going to put this here on the front so that you can see it. We're adding now the yeast. So in this case, we're adding 2.5 teaspoon. So I'm usually like just do it like this, spreading it above, like that. So that's 1. And now the 2.5, the half one I just do by. It's not super critical, so we got that in there too. And after this, what we need is a little bit sugar as a starter. So we're gonna put 2 teaspoons in there of sugar. So that's 1, 2. And with this, we mix the yeast in. So for dry yeast, there are 2 types of yeast, right? Basically, the one is the fast one and the active one. So what we have in this case is the active yeast. And what we're doing is we're basically letting this work for 4 to 5 minutes. And while this is working then, we go ahead and mix the dry ingredients together, so this will be ready. So if I look at my timer right now, roughly we have 11:26, so 4 minutes would be 11:30. And we will see some action while we are doing the dry ingredients, and I'm going to tell you some more stories. So first, again, critical feature is not to go above 104 or 40 Celsius throughout this whole process. So now we need 550 grams of flour. And I like, again, some people like to use cups. I prefer the scale, because the scale you have every time exactly the same amount. If I go by cups, everybody measures cups a little bit different. There's not a big difference, but there will be a difference. So I'm preferring the scale 550. And again, there are many different ways to do it. Some people, they just pour it in. I like to spoon it in, but there is no right or wrong. There are just different methods. So we got 530, 42. Okay, 550. Good. So we got the flour in there. Now we're gonna put in the sugar. Sugar is 90 grams of sugar. And again, sugar you can play later on with the recipe, because some like it sweeter, some not. And 90 grams, I think it's a mixture between US and Germany. I think in US, some people prefer to have a little bit sweeter. Just put more sugar in, it's fine. Nothing wrong with it. So we got 90 grams of sugar in there. Now we need 1.5 teaspoon of salt, right? So there we basically get our salt ready. 1.5 teaspoon. Again, I use 1 teaspoon and a half. I just do by. The next ingredients will be the vanilla. And there's always, when you basically work in the kitchen, there are always stuff what you can do while I'm waiting for the yeast. I can basically do measurements there. So it is a process. In this case, I use 1 teaspoon, but this one I just scale it by 5 grams. So it was 3, and now I have a little bit more. I have 6, which is okay. So now we basically have all our dry ingredients together, and we are still waiting for our yeast. While we're waiting, I want to talk to you a little bit about the history Zopf. So why we make it, or why I make it. I basically grew up in Germany in a small village, and in Germany almost every village has a bakery, and you can buy Zopf in any bakery. And as we were growing up, we usually had it on the weekends. And Zopf tastes really good with a lot of different things. So you can have Zopf, as an example, with whipped cream, what we had. And the funny part is, in Germany you get these small cups of whipped cream, which are 200 grams a cup. And it was perfect for the 4 of us. So we basically made always 1 cup and made whipped cream, and then we had that, and you just put a thin layer of the bread as you cut it. I will show you at the end how you can cut it. And this is a good amount of basically flour to have enough for a breakfast for many people. The other part where you have to be lookout for is when you make it just for 2 people or 3 people. What I always do is I just cut the Zopf in half and put the other half in the freezer in a Ziploc bag. You want to do it that way, and in general, even if you have it out, put it in a Ziploc bag to keep it fresh. It's not like bread which you buy at the store and 1 week later it's still nice and fluffy and nothing changed. So you will see if you just leave it out, it will be good. And usually it's best to taste right after you bake it. You just let it cool down, maybe for an hour or so, or half an hour, and then you can eat it right away for breakfast. It's perfect. But as I said, you can eat it with many different things. You can basically eat it also with honey, marmalade. As we were growing up, sometimes we added butter and then put the marmalade on top. Obviously Nutella. We're talking about the German guys. They love it with their Nutella. And one other thing, my personal favorite is a really thin layer of marmalade and then put whipped cream on top. That really tastes good. I'm not sure if you can see it already, the yeast. It is a live yeast, and we call this process a blooming process. You can see how it bubbles lightly on the top, right? Just bring it slightly closer, as you can see now. So it bubbles slightly, and you see these, I don't want to say volcano, but it's almost like a little island building on the top, and that's a good sign. That's basically telling me that the yeast is working, that it is alive. When I was making this recipe growing up, obviously there was no, you couldn't find that much on the internet, and you always had a little bit of trial and error. If I would known back then what I would know, what I know now is it would have worked all the time. But sometimes it didn't work, and sometimes it worked really well, and you never knew the end results. But now with this process, you will see it's easy, it's consistent, and you will always have good results. The other part is after we basically nail this, that's the next step. Let's look at our timer. So that's good. We actually spend a little bit more time. The yeast itself, what we're doing now, because we saw the blooming process started nicely, so we pour this in here, right? And then we use a mixer. So the other part is I very often make this in the bread machine because the bread machine, in my opinion, is a microbrewery in a sense for dough, right? And but in this case, I will make it the same way as you guys can do it at home. If somebody doesn't have a bread machine, what are they going to do, right? So we're making this now with the KitchenAid. You can also just do it manually by hand. So we let it run for 3, 4, 5 minutes on a low speed, and then I will show you what the dough looks like when it's all kneaded and ready. So in this case, while this is kneading, I'm telling you a little bit about the next process, what we're doing. So when it's done with kneading, we basically cover it up and put it in the oven. The oven temperature for that should be between 25 and 30 degrees Celsius or 75 to 85. And it's easy to reach that basically temperature in the oven. All what you have to do is turn on the light and the oven will go into the temperature automatically. So right now it's basically kneading nicely. On the bottom there are still some dry pieces. And what you also always can do in a case where this is forming, you could add a little bit more moisture if you need to, or a little bit more flour. I will take it out later on, and I will also put it in my hand and make a bowl, just to show you what the dough looks like and what it should look like, right? And but it is forming nicely. The way it looks right now, to me, it looks a little bit too wet. But I'm giving it another minute or two to go through this and see how that works out. Right now it's basically too sticky, right? And it should not be sticky. So I'm just going to put a little bit more flour into this. So as you can see, because the size of the eggs is always different, and in that case, it can always happen like that you have to add a little bit more flour or you have to add a little bit more fluid, depending on what the dough looks like. So in our case, I just added a little bit more flour and now let the machine do its thing. And hopefully now it will work out perfectly. So as I said, you can basically follow along with the recipe, and there are always things which are obviously go as planned, and then there are things they don't. But the nice part is with baking, you can always make corrections. If the dough doesn't turn out exactly how you want it, as I said, I just add a little bit flour to it, and now it looks much better. Now it looks pretty good. So you just have to observe basically how it's going and give it some time. And there is basically no other way. Like you have to sometimes just touch it and feel it, and then that will tell you the story. So this is still a bit more on the moist side, but it is okay. In this case, yeah, it's slightly sticky. I'm gonna actually add a little bit more flour to it. as I said before, it is okay. And the other part too is that's why I basically prefer the spoon with the flour, because now I can spoon it in a little bit, and then it gives me a good indication what works and what doesn't work, right? And now we just let the machine do its thing. So it's nice to have a machine to do an annealing process rather than not. And that's the advantage of basically doing it with the machine or by hand versus if you put it into a bread machine. If you put it in the bread machine, then it's either perfect or too wet or not good. But here now we have better control over it, right? And in this case, the eggs were just a little bit bigger, and that's why we have to do a little bit more milling. But as I said, you don't want to have a sticky dough, and that's just takes a little more time, and then it will be good. Yeah, now this looks much better. Much better. So now it's basically the side walls of the bowls are almost clean. On the bottom there is a little bit where it sticks still to the base, but that's okay. And this machine is a little bit temperamental sometimes. It's older. It turns back on its own, so you have to be always a little careful. Yeah, now you see it's not sticking anymore to my touch. My hand stays clean, and that's what you want to see, right? So now I can basically take this off here. Just can take it off like that, right? Yeah, that feels nice. It's like day and night from the first time, then I basically was touching it, and now this time. And I'm just gonna basically get it out of the bowl and show you guys this. This feels nice. You see how nicely clean my hand gets, and what the texture is, and nothing sticks to my hand, which is important, right? And now I just basically form a little bowl here, and then I'm putting this back in this bowl, and then we're going to let it rise for an hour or 1.5. So what we want to see is basically we want to see that this roughly doubles in size. Okay, so we have this in here, and this is something personally what I like to do. I just put a clear wrap over it so that there's less of a chance of a skin to form on the dough itself, right? And then the other part is I always put a towel over the top, and this goes back to when I was growing up. This is how my mother did it, and we basically put it like it is in the dog. So, and now we have our cat. She wants to help me out here. And as I said, the oven, basically I just turned on the light earlier. I also have a thermometer in there. Now, the question is, why do I put it in the oven? So theoretically you don't need to put it in the oven as long as you have a place where there is a temperature of 25 to 30 degrees, or in Fahrenheit is 75 to 85. I personally like it this way because it's more microclimate inside. As I said, you just have to turn on the light. Most of the oven will have then automatically a temperature like that. You can put a thermometer inside, check it. That's it. Very simple, right? So now we let this rest or rise for 1 to 1.5 hours. I will check after 1.5 hours and then we come back. Okay, so I had the dough in for an hour and 10 minutes roughly. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale the dough to know what the actual weight is, okay? So we're just going to take it out of here, right? And you can see how beautiful this looks. So now we're going to scale it. So I have 1080. So we have to divide that by 3. So that's 900 divided by 3 is 300, and then we have 180 divided by 3 is 60. So which means we have 360 grams per unit. So this is a little bit too much. Just came to the units here. So 360. I had actually 364, so now I'm going to divide these in half roughly. $384. So add a little bit to this one. 72. 363, the other one was 362, this one is 358, so close enough. I mean, that's semantics now if we want to go. And what I always like to do is just, it feels so nice to have the dough in your hand, and it's nice and warm. So we're going to pre-shape this now for the braiding process. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make 3 logs, right? So this is log number 1, and what I'm going to do is I don't want to keep it on a cold tile here. I'm just going to put it on a wood board. So I got number 1 here, and then we're going to have number 2 here. So let's home this nicely too. And what I didn't do, to be honest, I didn't give this one the full attention what it needed to. So I'm just gonna do this one over again. So now what we're doing, we're letting this rest now for about 10 minutes. Just want to get a little bit more equal sizing here. So there we go, now it looks good. So 10 minutes, we're gonna let these rest. And then after the 10 minutes are over, we're just gonna cover this again. Make them feel nice and warm and cozy. So let's cover this for 10 minutes, and then we're gonna do the final braiding. Okay, so now we're basically rolling the dough into 3 strands, which are roughly the same length. So we're looking about, now it's, I would say 1.5 foot and about 1 inch in diameter. So that's what we're looking for, right? And right now it's very slick on this on my tiles here, so I'm gonna hold it on the board. I get no friction here. And again, take your time, you know, there's no rush to it. And as you can see, I'm just rolling it from the center to the outside. The dough feels really nice and it's not sticky at all. I almost have no friction on my hands, which makes a little bit of challenge to form it, but it's going well, I would say. And as I always say, you know, it's basically speed comes later. First thing is just getting it right and doing it nice, right? So now we basically have one strand done, and now we're gonna do another one. And there we're gonna try to roughly make them the same size as the first one, right? I actually have to put a little bit of water on my hands here. So that they track better. I get more tractions to the dough. Now you can see just putting a little bit of water on it on my hands. That helps that the dough is not sliding on my fingers. And as you can see, I'm basically coming from the inside and going to the outside. And there is no rush in this. Take your time. Some people they can do that in no time at all, and for other people it just takes a little longer. And as I said, time is just something what doesn't really matter. It's enjoying the process, right? And again, I need a little bit of water. Just a little bit of water. And funny, sometimes depending on the dough, you might need a little bit of, there's an air bubble in there. You might need a little bit of flour. And in this case, I need a little bit of water. So that's why you're never 100% sure what you need, right? Okay. So now we got the 3 strands. Now there are different ways to do this, right? So you can either put it first, make it on the table itself, or you can make it right on the sheet. So in my case, I'm just going to put it straight onto the sheet. Sheet is big enough. The key here is to use a non-sticking sheet, right? Or you can use parchment paper or whatever you prefer. Now we basically put the strands down, and I like to place it like this. Okay, let's do this again. That's so funny. So we're going to take the right one and put the right one over the middle, right? And then we're going to take the left one and put the left one over the middle. Then we're going to take the right one, put that over the middle. And we're going to put the left one over the middle. And then we're going to put the right one over the middle, and then this one over the middle. So, and now we can put this one here a little bit nicer on the end. So now we got this one braided nicely. As I said, some people, they can do it definitely nicer than I can, that's for sure. So what we're doing with this now is we're covering this up, right? And then we're gonna bread proof this as well for 30 to 35 minutes. I'm going to check in at 30 minutes and see what it looks like, and then we go from there. So I'm showing you the full process. What I'm doing right now, I had it proving in the oven again, and now I'm basically taking it out, and while the oven is preheating, I'm just placing it here and leaving it covered. So it's resting for another 10 minutes or so before it goes in the oven. So as I said, I basically had a timer set, which is all good now. So I'm taking it out of here, placing it right there. And as I said, it was half an hour. And now I do convection bake, and then I'm putting it on 375. So 375, and now I just have to wait for the oven to heat up to 375. We're gonna put it in there, and then we're gonna bake it. I'm gonna put it on 22 minutes, and I'm gonna start having a look at it after 18 minutes. I want to have that it looks on the top nice and gold brown, okay? Okay, so now the oven, as you maybe have here just in the background, just finished heating up to the temperature. Now we basically take our nice Zopf or breakfast bread and put it in the oven for 22 minutes. Going to put on the timer for 22 minutes. And that's it. And now we just have to wait and see how it looks. As I said, I'm checking in after 18 minutes. You can also check in after 15 minutes, depending on your oven. Just make sure you want to see it gold brown. I will show you when I'm taking it out. Hello everybody, so I'm gonna take it out of the oven now. So what happened is I cooked it for 22 minutes. This is the first time that I actually use a thermometer for checking the temperature inside the braid, and usually the braid temperature inside should be 198 to 200 Fahrenheit. So right now I'm at 190. It's still a good temperature to pull it out right now. It's already gold brown, and I don't want to have it any darker as it is already. But it's good to take out. I baked it for 28 minutes. So 22 minutes is basically a level where you can look at it, but you probably want to keep it in for a little bit longer. So I'm going to take it out right now as I speak. So this is what it looks like. So we reach an internal temperature of 192. As you can see, the braid looks good. It's gold brown, and with a non-sticking sheet, it's easy to basically take that off. You can see it basically slides off. So usually you can leave it on the sheet for 2 or 3 minutes. Then you can either put it on a wooden block like this is, or you can put it on a cooling rack. So if you don't have a cooling rack like me, I'm just going to use this towel and set it slightly on the towel so that it can breathe underneath. So that's it. Okay. I will wait for another half an hour to an hour, and then we can actually cut into it and can try how it tastes. Looking forward to that. So now we're coming to the best part of everything. What I love about baking is not just that you can eat it later on, it also makes your whole home smell like a fresh bakery, which is really good. And as you can see, you just cut slices like this, right? And always let the knife do the work. Just apply slight pressure to it. And as you can see, it's nicely cooked, or baked, I should say, not cooked, right? So, and then as an example, you just take one piece, and now you can use whatever you have. You can use butter, right? You can use whipped cream, or you can use marmalade, as I'm doing it right now. So with the marmalade, again, everybody likes a little bit different. You can use a little bit more, a little bit less. Where I was growing up, we usually ate it with butter and then put marmalade on top, because everything tastes better with butter and whipped cream. That's the two things which we had a lot in our family, right? So now we're tasting it. The nice part too is it's still warm, right? So it's perfect to eat. It's really good. It has a crust on the outside, and then the inside is nice and soft. Very good.